Okay, this is the final part of this chapter, chapter 10, which is speech act theory. Speech act means when your sentence makes the listener performs an action, this is called speech act. When you say something which makes your listener performs an action, for example, commanding, requesting, questioning, informing, all these are called speech act verbs. For example, now if I ask you to close your books or write your names and send them to me, you perform these actions. So my sentence is a kind of a speech act sentence. Okay. Speech act theory has two main types: direct speech act and indirect speech act. When I ask you directly to perform something, this is a direct speech act. For example, inside a cold room, you might say, please close the door, or turn on the air conditioner. It's an indirect speech act by a direct speech act by making a command. Good. But for example, in the same room, when the room is a little bit cold and you say, hey, it is a little bit cold, it's an indirect way to say, close the door, please, but indirectly. In another way, in a restaurant, for example, and you are sitting on a big table with 5 or 4 friends, and you cannot take the salt, and you may ask your friend, can you pass the salt? It is not actually a question, it's a request by a form of a question. It's an indirect speech act. Instead of saying, give me the salt, please, it is, can you pass the salt? So this means that you are making a request indirectly. This is called indirect speech act. Speech act theory is very broad, and there are so many dissertations, PhD dissertations, and MA theses proposed speech act theory as a main topic. Good. This is the meaning of speech act theory. Politeness. What's the meaning of politeness? When you speak, you must consider people's face. You must have some awareness or consideration for others when you speak. This is called politeness. Inside politeness, we have 4 principles or 4 concepts. The first one, face threatening act. Listen to me, this is a little bit confusing, so pay attention to this. Person number 1 can make a threat by using some kind of languages, for example, using bad words or giving threats, okay, to use a weapon or to use something. This is called a threat. This is person number 1. So if the person number 1 makes a threat, he has a face threatening act, or he is performing a face threatening act. Good. Face saving act. When person number 1 threats another person number 2, the third person might show a kind of face saving act. How? By saying some sentences to cool down the threat, to make something better, to make it fine, or to reconciliate between the two other people. So, person number 1 threats person number 2. Person number 3 tries to reconcile between the two people. That person number 3 is showing face saving act. Tries to correct the things between the two people, to reconciliate the problem between them. Good. Negative and positive face. Listen to me. When person number 1 who is threatening someone who is person number 2, if person number 1, the threatener, accepts the reconciliation of face threatening or face saving act, he has a positive face. But when the threatener rejects the reconciliation of the face saving act, he has a negative face. Okay? The positive and negative faces are related to the threatener. If he accepts the reconciliation, he has a positive face. If he rejects the reconciliation, he has a negative face. This is the final part of